Warning, I'm usually not this direct because I want to live up to the second half of 1 Peter 3:15 as a Christian apologist. However, this is an issue that warrants a little force. Please forgive my strong words and know that I only say these things because I care. Abortion is not a political issue. It's just an issue that's been politicized. But first we have to understand one fact of which pro-choicers seem to be painfully unaware. Among the pro-choicers who are educated on the issue, it is uncontroversial to say that from the moment of conception, we have new human life. Take the words of Peter Singer, for example. It is possible to give human being a precise meaning. We can use it as equivalent to a member of the species Homo sapiens. Whether a being is a member of a given species is something that can be determined scientifically by an examination of the nature of the chromosomes in the cells of living organisms. In this sense, there is no doubt that from the first moments of its existence, an embryo conceived from human sperm and eggs is a human being. In fact, Planned Parenthood used to be pretty straightforward about this. In a 1964 pamphlet discussing birth control, the group accidentally let the unborn cat out of the bag, saying, "Absolutely not. An abortion ends the life of a baby after it has begun." Even the late great atheist Christopher Hitchens said, "Unborn child seems to me to be a real concept. It's not a growth. You can't say that the issue of rights don't come into question." Now, I'm no scientist, but here's the issue. Sperm cells represent male human biological material, and eggs represent female human biological material. When they're joined, you have new human biological material, i.e., new human life. So if you're a pro-choicer and you want to debate this issue, you really need to hit the books, even thoughtful pro-choice propaganda material. Because this is not a controversial claim, it's an accepted fact. The question you really want to be asking is whether this new human life has personhood or represents a new person from the moment of conception. With this in mind, we're ready to consider an argument against abortion that does not come from a religious perspective. Stephen Schwartz put together what I think is probably one of the best cases against abortion that can be made. He uses the word SLED, which is an acronym. Each letter stands for something else, a different part of the case against abortion. The S in the word SLED is for size. If we are to determine that the unborn are not persons because of their size, i.e., they're just a small collection of cells, then the argument of the pro-choicer proves far too much. The argument would amount to saying the smaller a human life is, the less a person it is. Thus, short people are less persons than tall people? My wife would certainly object to the notion that because she is head and shoulders less tall than I am, that makes her less of a person. I actually prefer petite women, so I would object on preference to this anyway. Yet we all know deep down that the size of a person's body doesn't have anything to say about their personhood. We cannot bigotedly discriminate based on size. L is for level of development. A common pro-choice claim is that because the unborn are not only small, but also less developed, only a collection of cells, that on that basis they're not actually persons. They're not yet totally developed human life, but merely potentially totally developed human life. The problem is that what can only be meant here is that the unborn are potential adult human beings, but not yet adult or fully developed. However, again, this would prove far too much for the pro-choicer. My 6-year-old daughter is also not a fully developed adult human yet. Is she less of a person? She's a potential adult human. Her level of development is at a reasonably early stage. In fact, she's less developed than my 9-year-old daughter, who is in turn less developed than me. I guess I'm the only real person involved in this equation. But obviously this is false. We cannot bigotedly discriminate based on the level of development. E is for environment. The most used response in favor of abortion is that the unborn are not actually persons because of their environment. They're in the womb rather than outside of the womb. Because of this unusual location, they are said to be potential persons, but not yet actual persons. The problem is that in no other aspect of life do we determine whether someone is a person based on location. Are Africans less persons than North Americans from a North American perspective because they're in a different location? Does one's status of personhood change based on which room of the house they are currently inhabiting? Naturally, the answer is of course not. We cannot bigotedly discriminate based on environment. D is for degree of dependency. Since the unborn are dependent on the mother for survival, via nutrients, amniotic fluid, etc., the pro-choicers often imply that they are not persons and it is okay to terminate them at the will of the mother, who is, after all, supplying the means by which the unborn survive. But what about the disabled? Elderly people living in assisted living facilities, or anyone else who is dependent on another for their survival. Do they also cease to be persons upon developing such needs? The answer is, of course, no, they do not. We cannot bigotedly discriminate based on the degree of dependence. Thus, pro-lifers are justified in saying that abortion is an ignorant, narrow-minded, backwoods, bigoted, animalistic practice. At least that's what we would all consider it to be if we applied these same principles to any other human life, any other person. I thought the societal norm was to treat humans like humans. I thought the mantra of the day was, I believe in science. Science is not your friend if you're a pro-choicer. Neither is philosophy. Neither is truth.